Hey everybody, how's it? Aloha, good morning. This is Geebz here, your old composer here at the Decomposer Lounge with one of my long-form spotlight shows. I guess I'm calling it that now. I gotta figure out a better name for this, like some kind of cool show. Maybe throw some ideas in there. Anyhow, Opeth. I'm gonna get past this intro really fast because we know Opeth has some long songs. I want to thank you guys for your suggestions. How this has been working really good for me is that I put a poll on the main channel here of bands I might be selecting from, and then whoever wins that poll, then I go over to Patreon, and my Patreon members and friends help me out select the songs. So that's been working out really good. It's been working out really well too because of the support people from Patreon have been giving me. If you want to join us there, even if it's for 1 month, come over, you hang out for a second, because people, sometimes they don't just want to buy me a cup of coffee, they want a little something for your money, especially today's day and age where it's just absolutely mental out there financially. So I am so absolutely grateful that people are hanging out at Patreon or buying me coffee or selfish promotion there, buying the shirt, if you see it down below. Finally, before we get started, the chapters. Now I now figured out how to use it all. I'm pretty consistent about it on my show. Instead of wanting to hear me talk at the end of your favorite song or something, you just go in the chapter, get right to the next song. So that's a bonus too, because you guys know I can go on. So let's start off with our very first song from the album of Damnation. This is 2003. I'm kind of doing this in chronological order, at least the 4 songs that I've chosen. And the first one is Hope Leaves. So this is Opeth, Hope Leaves. All right.
In the corner beside my window, there hangs a lonely photograph. There is no reason I'd never notice a memory that could hold me back. There is a wound that's always bleeding. There is a road I'm always walking, and I know you'll never return to this place. Today, without talking, there is a comfort in silence. So used to losing all ambition, struggling to maintain what's left. There is a wound that's always bleeding. It's a road I'm always walking, and I know you'll never return to this place.
Okay, there's probably a change coming up. We know we talked about that, how you can feel. I mean, me as a composer or as a musician, you can kind of feel and count that off, but I'm sure that you as the pure listener as well. What I loved about this, first of all, this is a really slow, chill song to start out the session with, and I do know that Opeth absolutely bangs and slams, so I don't know, I just spin the wheel and I just do as I do, and I kind of like this start, so this is badass for me. I love how it was very intimate at the very beginning with the guitar playing. What I mean by that is the engineering was kind of closed up in mono. Obviously the voice had an effect on it to make it kind of dull and numbing, which, what's the name of Hope Leaves? That's kind of a dull and numbing kind of, anxiety kind of, or sad kind of thing going on there. Really nice melody, really nice intervals, da, 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 da. Nice and soothing. It gets you going in there. And then there were a couple times where I was listening to the bottom end of the guitar playing, the configuration in which he's picking his chords, and just moving around just wonderfully, because the other few notes that he's picking, if you notice they're kind of consistent, right? But the movement is coming off of the bottom end. Then when the sound blooms, when the drum comes in and stuff, you saw me do this, it's because the sound opens up, the guitars open up, the bass comes in and really covers the bottom end tonally. So it starts off small and kind of hangs out in a certain tone zone for us, and then it blooms into the bottom, it comes together for us, and then finally the bass now is in unison with what the bass is doing in the guitar picking configuration, and actually, gives a lot of life to it and stuff. And I really, really love that. So I'm pretty sure that we're probably going to get to a banging spot in the song soon. So let's find out.
Once I'm done, it's only smoke burning in my eyes, too blind to cover up what really happened. Force the darkness onto me. There is a wound that's always bleeding. There is a road I'm always walking, and I know you'll never return to this place.
The song didn't have to get up and bang and to make an emotional pull on me. I love the techniques they were using on the engineering in here. You saw me just get nuts when it kind of felt to me the emotion of the song I was hearing was suffocating, in the sense that when I came back in, they went ahead and they sucked that guitar back into an effect that obviously made it feel, once again, canned and small. It had a little bit of top noise to it and stuff. And then another guitar kind of came in, and then they blew it out and bloomed up when the drums came in. Oh my goodness, too. The engineering on the drums is so good. I mean, I can feel. It feels like I could feel the drums right here in the way it's been mic'd and everything, and not over compressed or anything like that. You can hear all the subtle little ghost notes and stuff that are going on in there. Something I do want to say before I move on. Also, I noticed at the very beginning there was kind of like an electric keyboard sound. Could be a Rhodes emulated kind of. There's all kinds now of emulated Rhodes sounds and stuff, whether it was a real one or not, I don't know. And then I noticed that at the very end there was this really kind of high glassy pad in the background. Very subtle arrangements, but it really definitely added to the ambience and the ethereal aspect of this. But those chord changes, I forgot to mention on the first one because I forget shit, like I do. The chord changes that came out, it almost seemed like it was going to be a pre-chorus, and it never kind of took off into what I would consider even more of a bigger chorus. But those chord changes that came after the verse were so, they were mysterious yet enlightening. Does that make sense? I guess it depends on the dab. What I'm trying to say is, it really kind of like, oh man, what a great chord. And if you feel that, you as the pure listener, and you feel these lifts and these changes and stuff, and they actually will bend your soul a little bit, or your experience. This is definitely a headset experience too as well. Going back and listening to this if you've got headsets, or if you're sitting, in your sweet spot in between your speakers. That's what that is for me. Okay. So that was super cool, Bean. Now what I'm going to do is rig myself up for the next track, which is going to be... What do we got here? This comes from the 2008 album Watershed. I guess this is a special edition. And this one is called Heir Apparent. So let's do some Heir Apparent here. Whoops. I automatically started it by accident. Okay, so here we go. From the album Watershed. This is Heir Apparent. All right. Okay, I know. Everybody just went, oh, fuck, no, you're in another solo. I promise I'll go back. We'll get into this. It gets to, I know enough about Opeth to not think I can expect anything about their compositions and stuff like that. Now, what a way to start off with that first song. And now I'm going into like polar opposite. And from what I recall, they really enjoy different trajectories through these different styles and how they represent themselves as musicians and artists and in the songs that they write. So now we've got this deep, hardcore growling that's going on. Or not, I don't even know if it's growling or what the technique is called, but heard enough of it to recognize the fact that the reason why for me, even though I don't, it's not necessarily my jam to, sit and listen to the music that has vocal lines I really can't understand, especially under that condition of performance, how it works so well because the guitars are so busy and so what the riffs that they're playing are just, they're such a joy to listen to that the only way that to me that the lead singer or the master performance of the melody or the metallic, what do we call it, slam poetry style performance is to be in a flat tone or something like that where it's just rah rah because all this other stuff is just going. And if you're like me, I'm a rhythm like junkie. So that's why when this channel started and I started getting in, and of course Tool was my first listen, but then as I went through Periphery and Animals as Leaders and all these great bands, I'm going, oh my God, this is like right here. This is one of those songs for me. You saw how I lit up, especially at that change that just happened with the time. It wasn't that so much that the tempo had changed as much as it was that how they were performing this new section was a lot poppier and drier. And also they have that little modulation, it sounds like, that happens like in the fourth bar into their riff and stuff. So this I'm a little sweaty. I'm wearing black, I'm drinking hot coffee. I'm a little sweaty because I got really edged up on this, and I just love the rhythmical approach of what they're doing. Plus the guitar sound. What I love about the guitar sound, it doesn't sound over-processed at all. It sounds very raw and organic. I don't know whether it's a digital, there are, what do you call it? Tube drives, and then there are the solid states. I don't have the ear to differentiate between that, but I just love the sound of the guitar. So now I will go back like I promised. Let's get into that solo, and I won't stop for a while. I gotta stop and ask one question of you, the pure listeners who are the fans, not musicians, okay? For those of you who just love Opeth. When you hear music that's crafted like this, I mean, because this is, my arm doesn't go as high as quite yet, surgery recovered. This is so up there in composition and taking these chances and pushing the progressive aspect of composition. There's so many little complexities and nuances that are happening there. But you as the pure listener, when you go through this journey, how do you are you responding the same way I'm looking? I hope not, because then somebody would pull you over and put you in the loony bin. But because for me, when I'm listening to these, what the acoustic guitar work on here is absolutely flawless. It's beautiful. The consistency of the playing and the picking and everything is fantastic. And even when they're climbing up the scale, the whole thing, just crystal clear performances. But they are obviously taking us for this kind of journey that I'm trying to make sense of it a little bit. And I think it's only because I'm reacting, but I find myself just having to kind of sit and sink and just be into the moment, and because there's too much to talk about, I think, in a track like this that I don't want to really venture into, because I don't find myself as qualified per se as, let's say, some of the other reactors who are music theorist kind of guys and they talk more theory kind of things. But what I will say is that these paths that they're taking us on are rocket ship level, other universe kind of, because it's the way it's affecting me. So if it's affecting me this way, you as a pure listener, you've got to be just out of your mind with just the journey in here listening to this. Yeah, because this is insane. Yeah, that is leaving a buzz in my ear for sure. That, there was, there were so many things that I wish I can go back and really just soak into. I got to find a better way to do these reactions somehow. These first time bands that just give us such a deep experience. Here's one thing I do want to say. This isn't a criticism of any sorts. And I've said this about a couple of other bands. I think even Between the Buried and Me and stuff like that, because they're extremely accelerated in their composition, stuff like that. There were 4 or 5 different sections of the songs that could have been a song in of itself. I'd taken us through these changes of the riffs. The only thing that I felt like there was at some point where I just wanted to sit and soak and rinse in something, but they gave us this absolute feast. It's almost like going to a Michelin restaurant, of which I've never been, but let's just say a good restaurant. And they just bring out one thing after another if you don't order it. Those kind of restaurants and stuff, and you don't understand how pomegranates mixed with meat, mixed with chicken and fish and all that, but somehow it works and it's an incredible experience. That's what this has been for me. At the beginning too, there was the piano, that nice little piano that happened in there, and everything was in octaves. Very kind of a ghostly melody that was happening there. There was a couple of other sections here that just in this last part of this listen. Also, a lot of that. I love when melodic guitar work actually does singular note melodies in the octaves. That Wes Montgomery or a lot of musicians do that style. And then what they do is they completely change it up on this last minute and a half. It sounded like it was a completely different song. Now, obviously, one thing I've learned about Opeth and bands like this is that a lot of these songs lead into each other, so it's not like, just one song after another, that there's, a huge story behind it. But, that's the only thing that this last track left me with, outside of just an incredible experience listening to it with composer ears, but really working to listening to it like a pure listener, is to enjoy their back and forth between their musicianship, how they can just go bang and just be light and just airy. The drummer, everybody, like the vocalist in the very first song. I mean, if it's the same guy, right? So how he has that insanely buttery voice with a little bit of an edge and rasp and sadness and soul, and turns around and knocks us out. The guitar player is a bass player. And also, the little pads that are going on that are synth-oriented, those are so important. And I got to find a better way to be able to dissect this and not make it too long and boring. Like I probably just got, because most of you just hit the chapter and went to the next one, which is going to be, what am I doing now? Off of this album Heritage from 2011. This one is, The Devil's Orchid. So let's get on that one. All right. Okay, this sounds like a good place to stop. It looks like they set up a blender and they threw in some Edgar Winter, some ELOs, some Frank Zappa. But what was so cool, first of all, when they opened up with that really throaty sounded vibrato, tremolo vibrato organ sound. And the sound of the guitars, it sounds like they're playing with their neck pickups and stuff. On purpose is giving, and I don't know, since I've never listened to this album, if the whole album is engineered identically with the same sound and tones as what I'm hearing, but purposefully sounds like they're wanting to, the pull is back to get into that good organic, analog as much as we can in today's digital world kind of vibe of the 70s and stuff like that. But geez, the riff, that's the instrumental section of I'm in my mind picturing this going, okay, they just did 2 octaves of coming up and around and everything. But what I loved about that is that the bass was not in unison of that, so it was holding what would be like the root note or the note that is the constant through it, that threads through it. As pure listeners, a lot of times songs that are written will maintain a note through it, but it's very obscure sometimes, and it just depends on what instrument is assigned that or where in the chord pattern this one note might repeat. And that's what I always call the zip line effect of giving us something to hang into. So the essence is it only feels like there's a 2-chord change in the song, but what happens is as soon as we get into where he sings, they lay back off of that riff, and once he empties that very last note of his melody, he lets it drift right back down into this kind of, the essence of it gives you this Middle Eastern kind of vibe. I'm not going to say on what modi, it could be Phrygian. I don't want to go there. I make mistakes sometimes. I get the professionals and the musicians start smoking me about that shit. That's why I don't do it. But I love how that melody hangs out there and he drifts right back into the Middle Eastern kind of vibe of that riff and stuff. So, but I love the organ, and then of course the organ at the beginning that he had all throaty and overdriven completely changed its sound, once the song really started going. So, all right, let's go back a little bit. I'm going to go back just a little more than normal. I want to get into this next section, kind of glide into it. That organ sound was used really, that was used really a lot in the 70s, to support the bottom end of power chords and stuff. To hear it back, here, this is a project from 2011 and stuff. And I know the band has been around for quite a while, and they pull from the roots, most likely, you know, a lot of their influences from the 70s and stuff. But this whole thing just is permeated with the full experimental aspect of what I would say rock roots, but you know, with their skill set, their musicianship, and the engineering. Once again, the drums sound absolutely fantastic. I've gotten used, you know, today's day and age with a lot of the bands and the drums and stuff like that, technology, engineering, plugins, you know, and all the different things that we use. Sometimes we get I find myself sometimes I get desensitized because I listen to a lot more of the super progressive younger metal bands and stuff like that are incredible drummers, musicians, but they also use triggers as I'm learning and all kinds of different things that I was just blessed enough to be an engineer in the 80s in Los Angeles and be able to soak in, and I can visualize where the mics might be put in the kick or the snare, or how they're not being overly aggressive with the overheads and the hard left right panning and stuff like that of the tom-toms really swinging from one side to another. Yet the way it's placed, the ambience of stereo is still, you know, very apparent. That last little section that they brought us on, you know what that feels like to me is like the come on. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you whatever it is that you do to give you a nice little chill after a day of work or on the weekend, whether you're just like, you know, rolling the can and having drinks, whatever it is, there's always that point of the come on. Like, you know, you drink, it doesn't hit you right there. A few minutes, you know, pull a fatty in the machine, it doesn't hit you right there. It just kind of, and then all of a sudden you just go, oh, that's what that section did. And then I loved the shaker and the triangle. That high bell that you heard when I was going like this and going like this, it sounded like it was a triangle. You don't hear triangle in metal and stuff. Shakers, sometimes they get away with it, but the triangle you don't hear a lot of. So the fact that these musicians and these, you know, the composers, the band members in and of themselves are pulling from so many different areas to give us this unique experience is, you know, so far on this channel, which I've done almost 600 videos and tons of bands and musicians, I haven't heard anything quite as experimentally progressive and such cool rhythmical arrangements and twists as I have had on, you know, my journey with Opeth. And it's just been absolutely sick. I almost feel like I'm giving a closing monologue right now, or a closing thing, but it's just the way I feel. Let's just go. I'm afraid to. Still a few seconds left here. All right, is that it? Okay. Oh shit! That last section that we just heard, you saw me. I was out of my absolute skin with that. The ghost notes, geez, were those sick or what? You know, if you're a drummer, you're a musician, those ghost notes there, the way he played that was just absolutely insane. You as the pure listener, the ghost notes are you know, when you see a drummer with a snare, and you know they're hitting 2 and 4. Let's just say that's just, you know, in the case that I'm explaining here, dun ba dun ba. The ghost notes are the notes that are happening at a much lower level at the bottom that add such a lift. So da, oh, I love that. That was so badass. Same thing with the bass. Remember I was talking about earlier about that zip line note? So he was just hanging on one note, running right through that while this was going on, and that kind of pulled back vocal was happening. It was just the 3 of them, it sounded like. And then at the end of, I don't know, maybe it was 2 bars or something or whatever, the end of the phrase went, look, I'm all giddy. Shit, that was so badass. I'm sorry. To me though, that was my favorite part of the track because I'm just a rhythm freak that way, you know. That was my favorite part of the track. But the track was still absolutely insane. And like I said, very experimental. Extremely experimental. Once again, and because I'm not a big Opeth fan because I'm new and I just do this channel and then I go surfing. I don't really take deep dives and rinse in a lot of of these artists and bands after I'm done doing what I do. These guys are absolutely skill set. Fucking. Oh, I cursed. Sorry, that's what I meant. Anyhow, so be it. Our final song here is going to be from Sorceress from 2016, and this one actually it's the title of the title of the album is also the title of the song I'm doing here. So before I do this, I want to thank you once again for hanging out. Thank you so much for your support. Cups of coffee, Patreon, shirts and stuff, anything you can. You know I don't get paid for this stuff. I do it because I love it, but every once in a while I get gifted some coffees and stuff, and I'm very blessed, you know. But at very best too, if you'd like to, you also just share it. Thumbs up, thumbs down, doesn't matter. Leave a comment. It all works for me. All right, guys, last song of the show is Opeth, Sorceress. All right. Do you notice, is it me? Do you notice how one thing there's a really consistent thing about, even throughout all these albums, is they always have a very warm mix. It's never bright and punchy on the top and stuff like that. It's always got this really warm, it's got like an analog kind of vibe to it, you know? They really, however, whether I'm sure it's in engineering and mixing and then also the mastering, but it just always has this really warm power to it, you know? And so that's a standout for me. The other thing is his vocal melody and the way he's singing this, and please forgive me, because you guys know I don't do homework, so I'm assuming it's still the same singer all the way through. If not, please tell me in the comments. Does he have kind of like a Jim Morrison kind of approach to this melody, the way he's singing it and it sounds? And that's what I mean, you know, if you listen to The Doors, and if not, who are The Doors, and look him up on the internet. But I really love the tone of his voice and how he's, you know, performing and stuff. It really glides with this kind of a burnt orange sounding chug that's going there. I got the term orange from Brian from Critical Reactions, by the way. Also, what I liked was that beginning. They jerked me around again. At the beginning, that really great rhythm that was set up almost had a swing to it. You know, a swing tempo to it. So it was very lulling in that whole thing, and then they just go, gear change, and dun, dun, ding, ding. So this one, as a finishing song so far, just seems like it's just very straightforward and very much just kind of going to punch you right through here. But I love the tone of his vocals and how he's singing, but I'm sure I'm in for more surprises. great way to end the show. To end the show with an end like that. You know, they're so experimental and so progressive that for me it really just lights me up. You see, I probably was just kind of tweaking like one of those like little bright Christmas lights going tick tick. You know, the whole thing is because they do that's what their compositions are doing to me. But I'm enjoying it because it's got also, you know, every single one of the songs, except for the first song. The first song was really glidey and really super. It was a great, this was probably unplanned, you know, when I do these songs, 1, 2, 3, 4. But what a great way to start it off with that mellow track. And then we went right into the heaviness. And then ending up with probably one of the more experimental sounding track out of the 4. But I love the fact that they also have elements of fusion in there. You know, like I don't want to say so much a jazz fusion, but a 70s fusion. I swear to God, there's little vibes of, why can't I think of, I can't think of the name right now. Oh my God, Jaco Pastorius and Peter Erskine. I'm sorry, I'm frying right now, but Weather Report, little Weather Report stuff going on in there. And for me to detect that is either a sign that that those tie sticks back in the day were too strong, or the fact that it's made such an impression that I kind of harken back to that kind of fusion work to it. That's what these guys do to me, man. It's just absolutely crazy. And I love the fact now, you saw me go like this, now it sounded like it was an overdriven Rhodes, which is a trick that used to happen in the 70s, and well, it's transcended. But it may not have been because and then I thought, oh, it sounded like it was a triggered Rhodes that was distorted. But then as the guitar came in, the bass came in unison, then the organ came in on top of it. Of course, there are always some layers going on through here. There's no two ways about it. But even the layers are probably very executable live, even if they've got to maybe bring another person or something in, you know, to maybe cover keys or something like that. But anyhow, this was great. Thank you guys for hanging out. All you Opeth fans, I hope you enjoyed this. Once again, thank you for your support. I finished my coffee lickety split, so I need another cup. Links are down below. This has been a blast. I love doing these spotlight long forms. I have many more coming up. Always keep an eye on my community tab on YouTube, because that's where I drop the, you know, bands, like what bands should we do, and then it goes to Patreon and stuff. Also, thank you very much for checking out Patreon if you'd like. Once again, that call to action for me there is because there's a ton of videos there that are only on Patreon, that are other reactions, as well as fun things that I do with the membership as far as even helping me produce this show. So I want to thank you guys very much for hanging out. Have a killer weekend, or this video shall live on for whatever day it is. Just have a killer whatever day that it is, and I hope this show puts you in a good mood. It definitely has got me all. It's a great way to wake up in the morning. I love doing this is like 3 in the morning for me, and I like, you know, Hawaii time, so. Now I'm pumped with the coffee and the Opeth. You guys take care. Have a killer day. Aloha. All right.